I used to believe I was a good judge of character. I thought I could sense sincerity the moment someone spoke. I trusted the warmth in their tone, the intensity in their eyes, the certainty in their voice when they told me who they were. But what I didn't realize back then was something that eventually shattered me. The most dangerous people are not the ones who lie blatantly. They are the ones who tell you exactly what you want to hear before you ever think to question them. They hide in plain sight, wearing their words like armor, convincing you that their intentions are pure long before their actions reveal anything at all. The moment everything changed for me wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, almost unsettling in how ordinary it looked. I was sitting across from someone I trusted deeply, someone I believed was genuine to their core. They leaned forward, lowered their voice, and said something so confidently, so convincingly, that it felt like truth carved in stone. I'm one of the most real people you'll ever meet. At the time I smiled, reassured. But months later, those same words became a ghost that followed me everywhere, repeating themselves as if mocking my naive belief. Because when everything eventually fell apart, when the truth came crashing through the facade, that sentence was the first thing that echoed in my mind. I started to see something I had ignored for years. Authentic people don't announce their character. They don't need to. You feel their honesty without them highlighting it. You trust them without being told to trust. Their presence is enough. But the people who want to control how you see them, they rely on words. Heavy words. Rehearsed words. Words crafted like currency to buy your confidence before they've earned it. They plant impressions, not reality. They perform sincerity, not embody it. I didn't understand this pattern until it was too late. One evening, after a long day of work, I sat alone thinking about a strange feeling I had been ignoring. It wasn't anger. It wasn't suspicion. It was a quiet, persistent sense of dissonance, a small crack between what I was being told and what I was actually seeing. I replayed conversations in my head. The declarations. The assurances. The promises. Every sentence was perfectly shaped, polished, convincing. Yet the behavior never matched the script. And once I noticed the mismatch, I couldn't unsee it. That's when something clicked inside me. Words are the first layer of someone's identity, the layer anyone can craft. Actions are the architecture beneath the paint. And if you're not paying attention, you'll fall in love with the paint while the structure beneath is already collapsing. I began watching more closely, not with paranoia, but with clarity. I noticed how often people told me who they were instead of simply showing it. How quickly some claimed loyalty. How easily they offered promises. How effortlessly they portrayed themselves as different, superior, more honest than the rest of the world. None of these declarations were proof of anything. They were warnings disguised as virtues. And the more someone declared their goodness, the more I realized they were fighting to distract me from the truth their actions couldn't hide forever. No one told me this. Life taught me. The Stoics confirmed it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that the behavior of others is a mirror. You just need the courage to look into it without flinching. And when I finally did, the mirror didn't lie. It showed me what words had tried to disguise. People reveal themselves in the smallest inconsistencies, in the choices they make when nothing is to be gained, in the promises they break quietly, hoping you won't notice. This is why I'm telling you this now. Not to make you paranoid, not to make you cold, but to give you something I wish someone had given me years earlier, the awareness that protects your peace, the ability to see beyond language, the courage to look past charm. Because once you learn to watch actions more than words, you stop falling for performances. You stop opening your life to people who arrive wearing masks instead of intentions. And most importantly, you begin to trust yourself more than the image someone is trying to sell you. If this resonates with you, if you want more content that sharpens your awareness, deepens your discernment, and helps you walk through life with clarity rather than fear. Consider subscribing to the channel. It keeps this journey going and gives me the strength to keep creating content that supports you. After that moment of realization in part 1, when the mask finally slipped and I began seeing people with clearer eyes, I started noticing patterns in places I had ignored for years. Little details, small inconsistencies, strange behaviors that previously blended into the background suddenly became sharp, undeniable signals. It felt as if someone had wiped dust off a glass window I'd been staring through my whole life. And now every interaction, every sentence, every gesture revealed something deeper. Something I had never paid attention to before. It didn't start with anything dramatic. It began with the smallest of moments. I remember standing in the hallway at work one morning, waiting for a meeting to start. A colleague walked by, a person known for speaking endlessly about kindness, empathy, and treating everyone with respect. Their social media was practically a shrine to compassion. Every post painted them as a guardian of goodness, someone who cared deeply about the people around them. And yet, as they passed a janitor sweeping the floor, they didn't even acknowledge him. No greeting. No eye contact. Not even a hint that they had noticed another human being standing 2 feet away. I froze. Not because the moment was unusual, but because I suddenly saw what it really meant. Their kindness was selective, performed, directed only at those whose opinions mattered. Everyone else was invisible. And that small act, one they probably didn't even think about, told me more than all the beautiful words they'd ever spoken. That was the first time I understood something essential. Inconsistency is the fingerprint of inauthenticity. People don't fail in grand gestures. They fail in the quiet moments when they believe no one is paying attention. From that day on, I paid attention. Another pattern revealed itself through oversharing, something I once mistook for vulnerability. There was someone new in my life who told me a life story within hours of knowing me. Deep details, traumatic experiences, personal confessions that should have required trust, yet were handed out like samples in a grocery store aisle. At first, I felt honored, chosen. But then I noticed they shared the same stories with others, word for word, always prefaced with the same dramatic line. I don't tell this to most people, except they did. To everyone. That wasn't vulnerability. It was strategy. A shortcut to intimacy. A way to make me emotionally invested before I ever had the chance to evaluate whether they deserve that kind of closeness. Authentic people don't rush connection. They don't hand you the deepest parts of themselves within minutes. They let trust build slowly through time, consistency, and presence. But fake intimacy is fast. It's loud. It's theatrical. And just like a stage play, it looks convincing until you see the same performance given to the next audience. The third pattern emerged during conversations, simple ones. I began noticing how some people never answered anything directly. Ask a clear question, and they'd dodge with a story. Ask again, and they'd offer a half joke. Press further, and they'd shift the topic entirely. It was like trying to hold onto water with your hands. The more you tried, the more impossible it became. They weren't confused. They were avoiding truth. Clarity traps performers. Vagueness protects them. When someone refuses to give direct answers, it's not because the truth is complicated. It's because the truth is inconvenient. But the most revealing pattern appeared when accountability entered the room. I had a friend, someone close, who seemed mature, reflective, emotionally intelligent. But the moment I gently confronted them about something that hurt me, their entire demeanor shifted. Their eyes hardened, their voice sharpened, and suddenly I wasn't expressing a feeling, I was attacking their character. They said the same line every time, "You're overreacting." I was just trying to help. But they weren't trying to help. They were trying to control. To make me feel guilty for noticing the impact of their actions. Their defensiveness wasn't protection. It was revelation. And then there was the final signal, the one I ignored the longest. The way people showed up only when it benefited them. They were present when they needed something, eager when there was value to gain, supportive when eyes were watching. But the moment I needed them, even for something small, the silence was immediate and absolute. Loyalty that costs nothing means nothing. And yet, for years, I accepted the illusion. These patterns were so quiet that I missed them for most of my life. But once I started to see them, truly see them, it felt like discovering a hidden language written between the lines of human behavior. A code that revealed truth long before someone's actions became undeniable. And that new awareness didn't make me cynical. It made me free. Because clarity isn't cold. It's warm. It protects you. It helps you choose better people. It helps you build a life grounded in reality, not performance. And more than anything, it teaches you to trust what people repeatedly do, even when their words are dripping with sweetness. And once you see these patterns, life becomes much simpler. Not easier, but clearer. And clarity is worth everything. As I became more aware of those subtle signals, the inconsistencies, the oversharing, the evasions, another question began to haunt me. Why do people rely so heavily on words when their actions inevitably expose them? Why build a facade that will crack the moment life applies the slightest pressure? The answer didn't come to me all at once. It arrived slowly, like a whisper I kept trying to ignore until it grew too clear, too sharp to dismiss. I realized something unsettling. Words are the safest place for people to hide. Words require no sacrifice, no proof, no alignment with reality. Anyone can say the right things. Anyone can imitate goodness long enough to gain trust. Anyone can perform sincerity with convincing accuracy. To pretend with actions, however, is impossible. Actions demand consistency. They demand discipline. They demand truth. And truth is heavy. You can't carry it if you don't actually believe it. I saw this play out with someone I once considered a close partner in both work and life. They loved talking about loyalty, responsibility, and moral strength. They could articulate integrity better than anyone I'd ever met. And yet, whenever life put weight on their shoulders, when a difficult choice had to be made, when being honest came with consequences, when standing beside me meant standing in the line of fire, every principle they preached evaporated. They didn't collapse dramatically. They simply drifted away from the discomfort, leaving me to face the storm alone. Their words hadn't been a reflection of who they were. They were an advertisement, a mask, a performance crafted carefully enough to convince themselves as much as everyone else. That's when I finally understood something the Stoics had been trying to teach for centuries. Marcus Aurelius never spoke about virtue to prove he was virtuous. He lived quietly, relentlessly aligned with his values, because he believed character was revealed in private choices, not public declarations. Epictetus warned against declaring philosophy before embodying it. Seneca expressed that true morality is proven when no one applauds. I realized that fake people rely on words because words cost nothing. They are a currency of illusion. They let you build a reputation without building a backbone. They let you appear loyal without the burden of loyalty. They let you appear honest without the discipline of truth. Words are how people try to purchase trust they haven't earned. Actions, on the other hand, expose everything. You cannot fake showing up. You cannot fake consistency. You cannot fake discipline. You cannot fake how you treat people who cannot benefit you. These things reveal character whether you intend them to or not. This recognition made me look at myself too, not with guilt, but with clarity. I had believed too many words. Not because I was foolish, but because I didn't understand that most people speak in performances, not promises. I didn't realize that life is a stage where many perform goodness simply because they fear being seen for who they really are. And yet, Once I learned to watch behavior more than language, my world changed. The noise quieted. The confusion dissolved. Everything became simpler. People showed me who they were without trying to. Their reactions under pressure. Their willingness to admit fault. Their consistency when no reward was offered. Their truth revealed itself not through what they claimed, but through what they repeated when life wasn't convenient. It wasn't cynicism that grew inside me. It was discernment. And discernment, I discovered, isn't cold. It's liberating. It frees you from illusions. It frees you from disappointment. It frees you from the weight of trusting the wrong people. Because once you understand why people hide behind their words, you stop being blinded by them. You begin listening to the only thing that cannot lie, their actions. The more I uncovered about people, the gap between their words and their behavior, the more I began to fear something I didn't expect. Not them, but myself. I feared becoming hardened. I feared that seeing through performances would slowly turn me into someone cold, suspicious, always searching for the worst in others. I feared that clarity would cost me compassion. And for a while, that fear made me doubt everything I was learning. Because once you witness how effortlessly someone can perform kindness, how smoothly they can disguise manipulation as sincerity, trust begins to feel dangerous. You start questioning every friendly gesture, every warm sentence, every promise that sounds too perfect. And I didn't want to live like that. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life walking through the world, expecting deception at every turn. But something unexpected happened. The more I observed people, the more I realized that genuine sincerity is not only real, it's unmistakable. You don't have to force yourself to trust it. You feel it. It arrives quietly, without spectacle. It shows up in small habits, in thoughtful pauses, in the way someone listens without trying to twist your emotions, in the way they admit when they're wrong instead of defending their ego. Authenticity doesn't glow loudly. It settles around you like a calm presence. And that's when I understood what the Stoics meant by discernment. They weren't teaching suspicion. They were teaching vision. Marcus Aurelius never warned against trusting people. He warned against trusting words. He paid attention to behavior, not because he feared betrayal, but because he valued truth. He wasn't cold, he was clear. He knew that clarity protects peace, while naivety destroys it. And once I understood that distinction, the weight inside me finally lifted. I wasn't becoming cynical. I was becoming awake. There was someone in my life who taught me this without ever intending to. A quiet person, not particularly charismatic, never the loudest in the room. At first, I barely noticed them. They didn't announce loyalty. They didn't declare their principles. They didn't speak in dramatic promises. But every time life placed a small test before us, something inconvenient, something uncomfortable, they showed up. Not perfectly, not grandly, just consistently. They never told me I could trust them. They simply lived in a way that made trust obvious. And the contrast hit me harder than any disappointment ever had. I finally saw what real character looks like when no audience is watching. That's when I understood something I should have known all along. Seeing clearly doesn't close your heart, it protects it. Discernment is not the death of connection. It is the foundation of healthy connection. It helps you choose who deserves your time, your honesty, your vulnerability. It teaches you to stop confusing charm with character, intensity with sincerity, or dramatic words with genuine depth. And most of all, it teaches you to trust slowly, not fearfully. I once thought that losing my naive trust in people meant losing something pure. But now I see it differently. Naivety isn't purity, it's blindness. Real purity is clarity combined with compassion. It's the ability to see people truthfully without losing your humanity. It's the courage to walk through the world with eyes open, but heart intact. And as I learned to separate words from actions, performances from patterns, noise from truth, something remarkable happened. I became calmer, sharper, less shaken by disappointment, less fooled by charm, less attached to illusions. I didn't become colder. I became rooted, grounded, aware. I started choosing people based on their behavior instead of their stories. And for the first time in my life, I felt safe, not because people stopped lying, but because I stopped believing the lies that contradict behavior. That is the gift of Stoic discernment. Not bitterness, not suspicion. Clarity. The kind that frees you not from people, but from confusion about who they really are. As my understanding of people deepened, something unexpected began to shift inside me. The world didn't change. People still spoke in performances, still built identities out of declarations, still used words to paint portraits they had no intention of living up to. But I changed. I stopped placing my faith in what people said they valued, and instead, I began paying attention to what they chose when choices were difficult. And the truth that emerged from this shift was both liberating and unsettling. Loyalty means nothing when it costs nothing. Integrity means nothing when it is effortless. Character means nothing until it is tested. I realized this most clearly through someone I once believed was unshakably close to me. For years, they repeated the same comforting phrases. "I've got your back. We're in this together. You can always count on me." Their words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, convincing me I had someone I could rely on when life grew heavy. And for a long time, nothing ever happened to challenge that belief. Everything was easy. Everything was smooth. There was no friction, no conflict, no moment that required them to choose between their comfort and their loyalty. But life eventually tests everyone. One day, a situation arose at work that demanded honesty, simple honesty. We had witnessed the same event unfold, and telling the truth would have protected both of us. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't dangerous. It simply required a small amount of courage. But telling the truth also meant mildly inconveniencing a group of people they desperately wanted approval from. It meant risking a wrinkle in their social relationships. It meant choosing right over easy. When the moment came, they hesitated. I could see it in their eyes, the silent, invisible calculation. They weighed loyalty against comfort, truth against convenience, integrity against reputation. And then, with a soft sigh and a polite smile, they stepped away from me. Their silence betrayed everything their words had claimed for years. They didn't have my back. They only had my back when it benefited them. That moment shattered the blanket of comfort their declarations had wrapped me in. It tore through every phrase they had ever said, stripping them of meaning. And in that painful clarity, I realized something important. Promises are cheap when they are made in safe conditions. The real truth is revealed only when fulfilling a promise demands sacrifice. But even as I processed the sting of their choice, something else caught my attention, someone entirely different. A quiet colleague, someone who had never boasted about loyalty or integrity, stepped forward. They told the truth plainly, without theatrics, without hesitation, even though it cost them far more than it would have cost the friend who abandoned me. Their courage wasn't loud. Their loyalty wasn't declared. It was lived. And in that moment, it became clear to me that real character exists not in words spoken loudly, but in actions taken quietly when stakes are high. That contrast changed me. It taught me to stop listening for loyalty and start watching for it. It taught me to stop believing in people's promises and start observing their patterns. It taught me that the people who never announce their integrity often have the strongest version of it. And most importantly, it taught me that the people who show up when it costs them something, those are the ones who deserve your trust. The more I embraced these lessons, the more peaceful my life became. Not because people stopped disappointing me, but because their disappointment no longer surprised me. I had stopped expecting words to carry the weight only actions can bear. I had stopped confusing charm for character and intensity for sincerity. I had stopped giving my trust to people who asked for it instead of earning it. What remained was clarity, quiet, steady clarity. And clarity is a powerful form of freedom. It allows you to walk through the world without fear, because you are no longer blinded by illusions. It allows you to let go of relationships that were built on performances. It allows you to choose the few people who consistently choose you back. And it allows you to protect the most valuable thing you have, your peace. So if there is one thing I hope you carry with you after hearing this, it is this truth. Words build impressions, but actions build reality. Anyone can say the right things. Anyone can promise loyalty. Anyone can perform sincerity. But when life becomes difficult, when loyalty has a cost, when truth requires courage, when integrity demands sacrifice, that is when real character appears. Choose the people who show up in those moments. Choose the ones whose actions stay true, even when no one is watching. Choose the ones who prove themselves quietly, consistently, without ever needing to announce who they are. If this message resonates with you, if it brings you clarity or strength, or even a small moment of recognition, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me continue creating content that sharpens awareness, deepens understanding, and brings more truth into your life. And if you found a piece of your own story somewhere in these words, stay with me. There is much more ahead.